on this episode of Edge of the Web.
And ultimately, audience building is about, as you mentioned, authenticity, but also creating a communication channel, which means it has to be two-way and it has to be human.
Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. You're listening and watching Edge of the Web. Winners of Best Podcast from the Content Marketing Institute for 2017. Here at See More at edgeofthewebradio.com. Now, alongside Tom Broadbeck, here's your host, Aaron Sparks.
All right. Hey, welcome back to The Edge. We always appreciate everybody jumping into the live stream of our videocast as well as our podcast. Hey, we're broadcasting from Edge Media Studios located in downtown Indianapolis, Indiana. Every week we bring you the latest trends in digital marketing as well as marketing influencers from around the planet. You check out all of our recent shows over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. The sponsor of the show, title sponsor is Site Strategics, our parent company. And if you're interested in what they do inside of Agile digital marketing, just go over and check out sitestrategics.com. And you know what? Give us a ring or jump into our contact form and see if we can have a conversation with you and maybe explore some opportunities for your success. My name is Aaron Sparks. I'm the host and CEO of Site Strategics, the aforementioned title sponsor, as well as Edge Media Studios as well. And in the booth with me today is, actually he's not even with me. He's over there. It's Tom Broadbeck, Director of Digital Media.
Can you speak today?
I cannot speak today.
Hi, everybody.
I need more coffee, man. So we also have on the pipe, we've got Jeff Rohrs, his CMO of Yext. Jeff, how you doing, sir?
I am doing well. Good to be here today. Sorry I couldn't be in studio with you. Love Indianapolis.
Oh, it's not a problem. You're here in spirit, and you're not subject to all the fumblings of my introduction. So, hey, Jeff, we're really interested in, and thanks so much for joining us. You're a return guest. You were here 4 years ago on our podcast, and we love having guests come back around and giving us another set of insights. So thanks so much.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be here.
Great. Well, we wanted to jump right into the news because there's some fun stuff coming from Yext. We want to kind of traipse through that digital marketing garden there?
Absolutely.
All right. So let's take you through the latest digital marketing news.
I was very excited to start my reportings.
This week's trending topics.
Well, I'm giving Tom ample things to fix and post this time around. From Search Engine Land, from Greg Sterling, Yext is integrating local business listings directly into Amazon Alexa. Tom, what's going on here?
Well, I think since we have Jeff on, we should just talk straight to the source here. So.
Yeah, I was kind of opening up the obvious. Jeff, what is going on here?
Well, we were really excited to announce this just a couple weeks back. It is the first ever direct integration in our space with Amazon Alexa.
Mm-hmm.
So our customers now can provide digital knowledge in the form of name, address, phone number, location, store hours directly into Alexa's brain for the provision of voice answers to Amazon Alexa users. This represents kind of the culmination of a lot of work from our team behind the scenes to forge that relationship, and also represents really Amazon certainly dominating the smart speaker space. But as you guys well know, you can download the Amazon Alexa app on your smartphone,
right.
And Amazon is certainly looking at how do they push Alexa into other areas. In fact, you had my colleague Dwayne Forrester on, I believe, a little while ago. And,
yep.
Dwayne caught in the news that there's a home builder who's actually integrating Amazon Alexa into new home builds.
Oh, wow.
So that you've got voice control throughout your whole home. And so for us, this is the culmination of a lot of work. It's really our vision that we're building not just a listings network. It has now transcended that. It is truly a knowledge network.
Mm-hmm.
The objective facts about your business, we believe that your business should be in control of those across the entire digital universe. And that doesn't just include the traditional sources like search and maps. It also includes voice assistants and whatever may come around the next corner in terms of UI and AI that consumers use.
Absolutely, and the data that Yext provides is wholly unique in the space of reviews and products. You're bringing a lot of additional context to that, so it's certainly kind of teeing up that additional space for not only finding the best particular company, but also what their products are, and potentially even buying, obviously directly through Amazon. But it offers up a huge array of additional knowledge that wasn't part of the Amazon environment until Yext got there. So, can you give us some of the idiosyncrasies that the smart speaker will be able to have from a data standpoint?
Well, really, that is up to Amazon in terms of how it grows. So our philosophy is that we want our customers' digital knowledge. So the objective facts about their business, the location information, the hours of operation. If it's a restaurant, their digitized menu. If they are an insurance company, their insurance agent information. If they're a hospital, their doctors and practitioner information. As you mentioned, review information, and as we just announced and launched today, our Yext for events. So they're actual events. We want all that digital knowledge in as many places as possible.
Yes.
Our slogan is "You in control everywhere." That really is the vision that we have. We believe that consumers deserve perfect information across every single digital device and service that they use. And our contribution to that vision is to put companies in control of their information on those different services, those intelligent services, as we like to say. Because who better than the business itself to tell you the objective facts about itself? And it's interesting because we believe you're seeing a very large paradigm shift right now. And that paradigm shift is from a world that was principally one that was indexed and crawled to one now where businesses have an opportunity, a responsibility, if they really want to have competitive edge, to directly provide those core facts about the business to these services, because that is what is moving the customer in the moments of decision. So Amazon is a great example of a service that we all know that has been around. They're looking to broaden and deepen their knowledge. They want to have the best sources of information. And our customers ultimately want to provide that because they, again, have the best incentive to make sure that their store location, their store hours, their menus, all of these things are correct. And it's a great time to certainly be here at Yext, but I think it's also a great time to be a marketer because you've never been able to have this level of control in a way that was so efficient, update once and publish everywhere. And we're excited about it because with Amazon added to the mix, with Alexa added to the mix, we now have the Google ecosystem. We have the Microsoft ecosystem, which includes Cortana, of course, and Bing. We have the Apple ecosystem, which includes their Maps and Siri. And now we have Amazon Alexa. So it's a fun time to be here, and we really are excited about the innovation and distribution that we're ultimately bringing our customers.
No, that's great. You got the four corners, the four landscapes there, and we're looking forward to that being much more contextually driven for that consumer, as opposed to, you're absolutely right, the crawl and the search is now being delivered to the home, and kudos to Yext to jumping in there. However, this next story is a little bit of a different perspective on the smart speaker here over at TechCrunch. Article from Devin Coldaway. He says, "Surprise! No one buys things via Alexa." Now, this article, it's certainly opinion, but there's also a report from the information that it actually reveals that very few owners of Alexa-powered devices use them for shopping. Of about 50 million Alexa users, only about 100,000 reportedly bought something via voice interface more than once. And he says it's not exactly surprising, but it may still harm the narrative of conversational commerce that Amazon and others are trying to advance. The Amazon Echo and its brethren actually are mostly used for expected everyday purposes of listening to music, asking for the weather, setting timers and this, that, and the other. All of these are actually obviously things that phones can do, but there's something to be said for having that stationary hub for domestic tasks. I actually think it's an incredible nanny for my children, and there's now relationships with our smartphones that are happening with our children that's deeply disturbing.
How many times do your kids tell it to fart?
Oh man, there's so many. Well, like 2 or 3 a day. But they also freak out the dogs because you can get dog barking on there, and the dogs have no idea where it's coming from. Yeah. There's also photon torpedoes and phasers that I usually use against them. Yeah. So there's an entire sound effect war that's happening in the Sparks household. But when it comes down to the purchases, Jeff, we were wondering and we were waiting what was going to be happening, how well it would be integrated, and how well it would be embraced. It's right there for the taking, but the consumers, they're just not jumping into they're not taking the plunge into voice commerce, huh?
Well, I found this article and its headline absolutely hilarious. I want you to think back. All right, the iPhone came out in 2007.
Yep.
Think about a headline in 2009 that says, "Oh, surprise! Nobody's buying anything on their smartphones."
That's funny.
It was very immature. Of course, it's a new technology. People are finding their way. They're testing it. They're seeing if they're comfortable with it.
Right.
I know people, and I've been one of those people that has had it and unplugged it because we're trying to figure out where is the right place to have it in our life and use it. And certainly in the palm of my hand, on demand in the form of Siri, or actually, if you think about it now, I've got, I believe, 3 voice assistants on my phone. I have Siri, I have the Amazon Alexa app, and I have Google Assistant integrated into Google Maps and to Google Search. So I've got all these voice assistants. But man, this is the early innings. For somebody to write an article like that is, frankly, I think it's. I'm not going to chastise them. They've got data, great, talk about it. But the headline is very much meant to be provocative and try and be, I think, shade towards Amazon.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if you really peel it back, you go, you know what? This is just natural human behavior. We're adopting things. We're figuring out what works for us. And I can assure you, as soon as people who want that kind of convenience figure out how to best leverage it, and that, while it seems intuitive, right? Because voice is so intuitive,
right?
There is still a fear factor of like, I don't want to accidentally order a $50,000 boat, right? Like, oops, I just ordered a $50,000 boat. Once you have friends teaching friends in their living room about how to do this, that's the viral influencer angle of how folks are going to do this.
Right.
And I would tell you this: there's never been a piece of consumer technology that's had a faster adoption rate than smart speakers.
Really?
Yeah, it's the fastest adoption.
Well,
think about a UI.
Yeah.
An adoption, because that is what voice is. It's a UI.
Yep.
It has slowly crept into everything. It's on my Xbox.
Yep.
It's here on my desktop. It's in my smartphone. It's on that smart speaker across the room. So early innings, folks. Yeah, it makes for a great talk track and a little bit of provocateur ism from that author. I get it, but I've been around this internet thing for a pretty long time. Yep. I think it's now close to 25 years, for God's sakes. These things come in waves and they mature in different levels.
No, you're absolutely right. I guess the one factor that I would be looking at is that the adoption rate that you were referring to with the iPhone, yeah, that was a slow adoption, and it easily would have been laughable that somebody would have written that headline. But we now have a much more accelerated adoption, and you're absolutely right. The speakers and the UI have been adopted very fast over the last 2 years. I mean, with 50 million devices out there, and when did Echo come to the market? Like 3 years ago?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's very fast, and the voice commerce was there all the time with Amazon, and that hasn't been adopted at the same rate. It doesn't seem to be excelling nearly as much as just the embrace of the entire speaker or smart speaker environment.
But I don't know that it has to. Again, this is an additive technology. It's not subtracting anything from your world.
Right.
And so, just as I still have relatives who won't buy anything on the internet because they're afraid of putting in their credit card, you're going to have some folks who are never ever going to adopt it that way.
Yeah.
However, especially within more youthful audiences who want that convenience and aren't afraid of a voice interface, I think you'll see the growth there. That's just, par for the course. We saw it with social media. It started youthful audiences and it grew upward. And now some of the largest audiences are 30, 40, 50-year-olds. So.
Absolutely, yeah. And the reluctancy or the resistance is certainly going to ebb away even more quickly as more and more of the boomers are getting more immersed in the digital space. So, yep, it was pretty provocating or a headline that was a gimme headline that would have caused some ire from Alexa. But hey, at least got us talking about it, right?
I'm sure they didn't give it a second thought.
Oh, yeah.
I can assure you of that.
Yep, absolutely. Hey, there's another, somebody that a headline that should actually give some in the industry some thought. The Google Medic update over at Search Engine Roundtable by Barry Schwartz. Google's core search update had a big impact on the health and medical sites. Tom, when did this update happen, and what are we seeing? What's Barry talking about from affecting these sites?
Yeah, so it took place August 1st is when they announced it.
Yep.
I saw Barry, he was writing about it right when August 1st before they even announced it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, they announced it as a broad core algorithm update. So there's no specific area like with a Penguin update where they targeted backlinks. Right. This core update was a wide-ranging update to their algorithm. Mm-hmm. So they can't, and plus with RankBrain, they don't know exactly what all was impacted. So
yeah, what's all going to actually pan out with that factor in place? Yeah.
So we're a week out now. Barry's looked at some websites. I think he said he looked at like 300 different websites. Mm-hmm. And I'll scroll down and you can see the chart here. It looks like I can't read that number there. What does that say? 41%?
Yeah, 41%, yeah.
41% of the websites that he looked at, so 41% of 300, were health websites that lost a significant amount of rankings with his latest update. E-commerce, so 16% of websites he looked at were e-commerce that lost some significant updates. So they're coining it the Medic update since it's the kind of health related. So they didn't give any specific... If your website dropped, they didn't give any specific details on what to do. Danny just said write better content, which is
that's the default.
Yeah,
position.
but they don't know what the main thing was.
Well, interesting enough is I'm surprised that Google actually announced this because they actually have stopped announcing the different algorithm changes a good year and a half, 2 years now. So this one was pretty.
Yeah, they've announced a couple core ones like this,
right.
But this one seems to be fairly large.
Jeff, what do you think about the shifting sands in the medical ranking environment there?
Oh, well, I've known Barry for years and got a lot of my digital start in the search world. So I've watched the maturity of SEO over time, and one of the reasons I'm at Yext is because again of this paradigm shift that I see. So Barry's doing a lot of great analysis there, but what are we trying to do? We're trying to reverse engineer a black box. We're trying to guess at what's going on to try and then give best advice on how to change things. So one of the reasons I came to Yext is I like the fundamental philosophy that, look, your fundamental facts are what you should be controlling and worrying about principally. That's a foundational level. You want to make sure those are right everywhere. Mm-hmm. And if the way I explain it to folks who are familiar with digital marketing, SEO, et cetera, is, look, if Google were to start today, they wouldn't start with a spider. They wouldn't start with indexing. If they had the kind of market cap position in the market that they had and they started today, they would ask the companies to directly give them the objective facts about the business.
Absolutely.
We want it straight from the source. Why do we want to go to a third party? Why do we want to source it from consumers if it's objective facts? If it's subjective, if it's reviews,
sure,
right? If it's commentary, then that makes a lot of sense to source from elsewhere. But if it's objective facts, it should come from the business itself. And that paradigm shift is a really primary and fundamental one that is happening right now. And so when I saw this article, I thought about how we, with Yext for Healthcare, we're giving healthcare folks the ability to directly update that information about practitioners, facilities, et cetera. And it's solving for a very fundamental problem in healthcare, and that is that their digital knowledge, their business location information, their practitioner information is a horrible mess online. And it's fostered by the fact that you have shifting strategies, different content management systems, and a freelancer economy in the doctor ranks, where doctors are being plucked from one health system to another. And if you aren't able to control that and update that and make sure it's right, you have patients who are going to the wrong place, or the healthcare system that just picked up this, great freelance, let's say it's a sports athletic doctor who does amazing surgeries for athletes of all kinds, from the youngest to the oldest. You are picking that person up because they are going to bring you new patients. Are you going to be happy that their profile information is showing up on the old healthcare, site,
right,
who they previously worked with? No, you're not going to. And so wouldn't you much rather have a world in which you can update that as directly as possible, as opposed to one in which you put it on your site and you hope and you pray that the algorithm, the spider's going to come along, index it, the algorithm's going to give you the right rankings, and they're going to push it up. And so it's this change from an indexing world to a direct injection world. And I'm not saying that content and that indexing goes away. It still remains important because it fills in a lot of the holes, because not everybody is managing this information directly.
Absolutely.
But I find it difficult to do anything than react to a report like Barry's and say, oh, well, it's had an impact on healthcare. Great. I don't know what that means that you're going to do differently. And I don't know if you should go chasing the tail of Google. I'm not sure that anymore makes a ton of sense, because there are so many other endpoints that consumers are using to find information. Like, how do you do search engine optimization for your information on Uber or Snap or Instagram or Amazon Alexa? Right? There are all of these different endpoints, intelligent services that don't necessarily rely on indexing any longer. And so it is this balance that you've got to do. But we believe there are these fundamental core facts you should be in control of. That should be direct management. And for the optimization pieces, the majority of that good thinking has gone into schema and optimizing and being schema.org compliant and making sure that you're really presenting structured data, so that these services that come along can understand it better. That's the world that we're headed towards. So when I see things that are trying to reverse engineer the black box, I get it, but it's not. I don't think it's directive for marketers these days. I think it just points to the fact that we need to shift to this new paradigm.
No, I'd agree with you, and I do think it has a similarity to I think what was it, Hummingbird a while back, the local shift of the algorithm. It really does have a lot of similarities to that local issue and thin content. You got so many medical sites that have repeated content. You've got a lot of wiki-esque type of reference content that is, it could be very well duplicate content, but you have such thin areas there. I think it is this, as you say, this new level of expected management from these companies, from these brands, to go out, capture, make sure all that is not disparate spaces that they're not attending to, get it all centralized, very similar to just consistency of name, address, and phone number. But you've got the physicians, all the cleanup that you have to do as these different individuals make their way in different spaces. But I mean, it's not a targeting thing. It's just a natural update of, and these medical sites are really going to have to iron out and improve their content and not have these long, sizable directories that are really probably inconsistent, right?
Well, that inconsistency will kill you, right? And we see this when we bring on large enterprises.
Yep.
They will dump on the kind of the virtual table, if you will, 5, 8, 10 different sources of quote unquote truth for all of their digital knowledge. And if you have more than one source of truth for a piece of knowledge, it's not truth. There's conflict.
Yep.
And the reason is that businesses have not thought of it this way. They haven't thought of their knowledge as power. They haven't thought of their knowledge as an asset. But in a world where searches are becoming more granular, and I'd love to see Google come out with information on this, because I don't have any inside information. I want to be clear, but I have a sneaking suspicion that Google Maps may have displaced YouTube as the number 2 search engine. Just based on conversations I have with folks who use it, they're using the map not just for point A to point B location. It's, pizza near me, lunch restaurant, place that's got this, that, the other thing. And then once you introduce the UI of voice, the length of questions are huge, and people are adding more and more attributes to the types of questions that they're asking. And so I'm very intrigued to see how those behaviors ultimately will impact how businesses align, because my belief is you've got to align around get more and more granular. Google adds 10 to 100 different new attributes about businesses that they want to consume. Last year ago, August, they added new LGBTQ friendly attributes so that you could mark your business as being friendly to that community. But if you're not managing that information, if you're not looking for that, how do you turn that on or off? And it's not something you can do SEO to optimize for. So it's a really intriguing time. And I do believe there is a fundamental career opportunity for SEOs who are ready to make that next leap to digital knowledge management. Because it's broader. You've got to work with more people in the organization. It's about having this source of truth platform, and then a mentality that keeps your information fresh and consistent at all times.
Absolutely. And that's well said right there. It's not just SEOs. Brands have to be accountable and responsible for their digital assets out there. And to the point of Google Maps, and we'll finish with this here, is that it's a utility as opposed to YouTube, which is certainly a learning environment. But maps are, especially with the Google My Business injection there, you've got quotes being able to be generated. You've got obviously call functionality. You have review functionality. It's a destination now, as opposed to a secondary lookup and then going on to another web property. It is the most useful piece of information. I think you're absolutely right. So with that, we want to sum up our news, and you know what is a great piece of information? It's our newsletter that we send out each and every week. So jump into the Edge newsletter. You can sign up right there on your cell phone, or your smartphone, I should say. Don't do it while you're driving. If you text to the number 22828, the word Edge Talk, you can sign up right there, or go over to edgeofthewebradio.com and drop in there and quickly sign up. It's free of charge, obviously. We never do anything else with your email except sending you digital nuggets of gold. So sign up today. With that, you can check out all the featured topics and news over at edgeofthewebradio.com. Right now, let's deep dive with this week's featured guest.
Now it's time for Edge of the Web featured interview with Jeff Rohrs, Chief Marketing Officer of Yext.
So, Deep Voice Guy gave a great introduction. We always try.
I love Deep Voice Guy.
we got to figure out how to send these ringtones over to our guests. See if they can put anyway. Hey, let's introduce Jeff to our audience. Jeff Rohrs serves as the Chief Marketing Officer of Yext. He is the author of the book Audience: Marketing in the Age of Subscribers, Fans, and Followers, and that was in 2014. And last year he co-authored another book called The Everywhere Brand. Prior to joining Yext, Jeff actually served as Vice President of Marketing Insights for Salesforce and Exact Target. So some great accolades, some great brands that you've worked with, Jeff. But
and he was pointing to his book while you were doing it.
Yes, he was.
Right corner.
And to be fair, it's appropriate to call it an ebook. I don't want to suggest that it had nearly the amount of hours or pages in it as Audience, but it was a fun project to do with Jay Baer.
Absolutely, and we're fans of Jay and a friend of the show as well. Jeff, why don't you give us your backstory in your words?
Sure. So I have had the good fortune to chart a very odd career course, but purposefully. So I am an Ohioan by birth and education. I went to Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, the Miami University.
Not the other one.
And also worked on a legendary alternative rock radio station, 97XWOXY, BAM, the future of rock and roll, during my 4 years of college. So went to about 150 concerts for free during that time, started a music video show while in school, got to interview Trent Reznor when they were opening Nine Inch Nails for Peter Murphy.
Oh, no way. Yeah. I remember that concert.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I interviewed him the night after he had pissed off Peter Murphy's folks because he had sprayed the entire front few rows of goth girls with water, and then he had thrown flour on them. And he found that very funny, but Peter Murphy and his people did not. But that was an amazing time. Got to interview Bob Mould of Husker Du, and he has the legendary solo album Workbook, and ran into Kate Pearson of the B-52s backstage before I was interviewing Toad the Wet Sprocket, and discovered that she has a lot of freckles under that pancake makeup. So many I didn't even recognize her at first.
Oh, wow.
So that was a lot of fun. But what it taught me is that the music industry at that point in time was not exactly the place I wanted to lay my head. So I went to law school to learn how to protect artists' rights, First Amendment, copyright, trademark.
Oh, wow.
And graduated, but not before getting a dual degree master's in mass communication, using this thing called the internet in 1994, using this thing called Yahoo. But there was no money in the internet, and I had 6 figures of law school debt before it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
So went and practiced at Baker and Hostetler in Cleveland, and then jettisoned to LexisNexis a couple of years after that. Was there as they were migrating from software to Lexis.com, and then they purchased Shepard's, which was the gold standard of citation checking, and unveiled Shepard's.com, and I got to be the one who kind of unveiled that to certain VIP audiences in the country. That got me realizing, connecting the dots on my marketing interests.
Mm-hmm.
So, the guy who had actually hired me at the law firm became GM of a digital firm at the end of the 90s and brought me over when they got acquired. That was sort of a reverse MBA, though. I learned what not to do in building a business. Don't take VC money and spend it on private planes and steaks, and hire people to sit on the bench and never bill an hour. That's kind of a bad business model. Once that imploded with the bubble, I went to Optium, which was an up-and-coming email marketing services firm. Helped build their relationship with ExactTarget, which then we became ExactTarget's Partner of the Year. And Scott Dorsey, the then CEO of ExactTarget, reached out to me, and I joined ExactTarget as a VP for partner and search in May of 2007. Quickly jumped over to the marketing team when Tim Kopp joined, and then built out the thought leadership team, content marketing team, a lot of the programming around our Connections user conference. Started the Subscribers, Fans, and Followers research series with Morgan Stewart. That then spawned the idea for the book, started writing the book. Learned in the middle of writing the book that Salesforce was acquiring us. Survived that whole merger because I was the guy with the book, and Salesforce put me on kind of a world tour of my own, and I spoke around the globe for a couple of years.
Oh, wow.
And got called by a headhunter for Yext, and interestingly enough, had not heard of them, at least in my conscious mind. In my subconscious lizard brain, I had, because as I was being interviewed, I was cleaning out my backpack from a trip I'd taken, and I pull out a tin that says Yext, keep your geodata fresh. I had gotten branded Yext material at I think it was SMX where I had spoken. So I saw it as a sign from the gods. Howard Lerman, the CEO, made a compelling pitch, loved the vision for the company, and joined here 3 years ago. And it's been a wonderful ride, and wonderful to build a team and be a part of a team and collaborate with some great folks who have really killer experience and killer vision.
What a great backstory of all the different brands and all the different utility or useful functionality of these different platforms. Shepherd sounded. I mean, Shepherd literally was so ahead of its game in citations, and we understand now that citations is incredibly valuable in the space of local SEO. But on top of that, what we talked about at the beginning of the show is standardizing and cleaning your data, making sure that you have full ownership of the assets that are out there for consumption. I mean, that was way early on in this space, but you've also gone around to all these different areas of consumer interaction. And it seems kind of quite natural where you've gone to from a pathway over to Yext, because Yext is kind of almost a accumulation of your different experiences, right?
Well, it is. I mean, it was funny coming back here because as I was transitioning out of the search world, Yext was starting to grow. And so I just narrowly missed probably crossing paths with Howard and Brian as they were building up the company.
Mm-hmm.
But when I joined ExactTarget, it was really funny. All of my friends in search, said, "Where are you going? Why are you going to an email company?" And my logic was, look, this is a great group of founders. They have a great vision. I like the idea that they are based in Indianapolis because nobody will see them coming. And at the end of the day, email was where all the money was being made.
That's right.
And the internet, it was driving the vast majority of e-commerce and other types of sales. And fortunately, that paid off in ways I couldn't have even imagined at that time. But just professionally, it was a wonderful experience. The opportunity then to work at Salesforce and at a company at its peak, at its zenith, company that has innovated so much and has such a charismatic and visionary leader in Mark Benioff. And I was fortunate enough to be able to attend a couple of the leadership offsites and see him at work in a way that unless you're in the company at that level, you can't see. And he is just an amazing machine when it comes to boiling down issues, coming up with solutions in ways that feel empowering to the people around them, and then setting a course and a vision. But then when Yext came calling, if I was nearing retirement age, it would have been great to just travel the world and take my wife along and see all these places. I mean, one of my favorite speaking gigs was one I did for Salesforce on a fashion catwalk in Singapore. And I ended up signing personally every one of the 300 copies of my book because every single one of the 300 people who attended wanted a copy.
Oh, my.
So, I mean, there were just really cool opportunities, but I had the itch to build a team and really test myself. I had never really thought, certainly in the mid 90s, early 2000s, that like a CMO path was right for me. But by the same token, I didn't think being president of an agency was the path I was on. And that's what I found myself at a crossroads in 2004, presented with the opportunity to take over Optium as my friend who was president left. And so, life kind of and business presents you these opportunities, and you kind of have to you have to do the work and do the extra work to create opportunities. Certainly, network and build relationships along the way, because you never know when somebody's going to boomerang back into your life.
Absolutely.
And with Yext, this was maybe I've been fortunate that I kind of developed a sixth sense for this, but when I looked at it and I said, okay, at that point in time, they were just principally listings and pages. They hadn't come out with Yext reviews. They hadn't come out with Yext events. They hadn't built out the digital knowledge management platform.
Mm-hmm.
But I could see the writing on the wall, and that is, okay, mobile's only going to grow. And in order for artificial intelligence to work, it needs real facts. It needs actual knowledge, because it's only as smart as the knowledge it's built upon. And so if this is a factual database that's used for mobile users and interfaces change, this seems like, again, I keep coming back to this paradigm flip, but that's what I saw. I thought I saw the paradigm shift. And it's been fun to be here because the challenge that we have is different than what I saw at ExactTarget and Salesforce, because we're actually carving out an entirely new category.
Yeah.
We're creating the category of digital knowledge management. It didn't exist before we put that down, and we put our flag in the ground and we started talking about what that means, that you need to actively manage this knowledge in the company in a new way and actually think through the logistics of that. And that's why I love having Dwayne Forrester on my team, because I mean, he was in charge of webmaster tools at Microsoft. He knows where all the search engine bodies are buried. And so he has that experience, and he too saw this trend and wanted to join, and now is kind of that Pied Piper for, hey, this digital knowledge management thing is real and it's got career opportunity written all over it. Here's why you need to think about it. And so that's a fun place to be, because it feels mission driven.
Mm-hmm.
And again, our fundamental belief is consumers deserve perfect information everywhere. I don't think anybody could argue that that's a good thing to want to have. And so it's fun to come to work and work with a great group of folks on problem solving and delivering solutions for great brands that we work with, businesses of all sizes, from one location to hundreds of thousands, to ensure that customers are getting right information about them in everywhere they turn.
Well said, and that's a great perspective. It really does harken back to the 2004, 2006, whenever the SEO environment, the SEO industry was starting to define itself, and it's a rarity that you come across an opportunity to truly carve out a brand new service or a brand new area of the industry. And that's what you're talking about right there, is that it's this digital knowledge management and the opportunity or providing an asset where brands can actually manage and take ownership of those spaces, because honestly, all these disparate citations and references kind of ran ahead of companies, and they're needing to catch up, and utilizing a tool like Yext gives them control over such an amount of properties out there that it's almost a foregone conclusion. You have to use a tool like this if you are to embrace all of the spaces that you can't control, right?
Well, you hit upon it. I consider us as delivering 5 values to brands.
Mm-hmm.
You hit on the first one, and that is brand control. Over that shoulder, you can see our latest publication, which is called "To Refresh or Rebrand."
Yep.
That is the question. Free download, and we interviewed brands and CMOs who have done it, and they've made the decision about whether you should rebrand or refresh. And it's one of my favorite conversations in marketing, because boy, oh boy, I've never had to sit upon the top marketing role in a CPG company that spends hundreds of millions of dollars and has to figure out, are we going to refresh the brand? Or are we going to redo the brand? Like, for instance, right now, Papa John's, man, do they have a decision in their hands. They've got a legal battle. They're in a literal battle with Papa John. You don't know where it's going to go, but at some point down the line, when the dust settles, when the legal issues are concluded, they've got a big brand issue. And if they decide that they've got to rebrand or refresh the brand, how are you going to do that across the digital ecosystem?
Right.
That's what people use this for. So brand control. Then you've got local discovery, right? That's what most people know Yext for, because we've always talked about location data, listings data. That's a core function of our platform. And discovery, we were talking about it with maps. The reason we call all of these services intelligent services is they bring to the table varying degrees of intelligence about you, about your location, about the weather, about your past history, about your friend's history.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I open up Google Maps in Newark, New Jersey now, it knows that I went to this amazing lamb burger place. And if I'm anywhere near that, even if I haven't searched for lunch or food, that's one of the little pin drop icons that shows up to show me where I am in proximity to a place I've already been. Either because it says, well, maybe I'm hungry, or it just wants to give me context. So it's intelligent because it's giving me things based on the experience with me. So you got that brand control, you have that local discovery, you got customer experience.
Yep.
Customer experience, we all want frictionless experience. We want consistency across everything. And that's one of the things that we really strive for, is it's not just about publishing out, managing on, third-party services. It's also about your own local pages, your own app. And so that experience, that customer experience is important. Then you've got the operational efficiency side of it. So we just had our friends at Ben & Jerry's, who've been a long-time customer of Yext listings and pages. They were in the beta for Yext for Events, and they have their annual free ice cream cone day. It goes back to their founding in Vermont, where one day out of the year, they don't sell a thing. They do nothing but scoop free ice cream cones, but they have to promote that. And they used our Yext for Events to promote it across the landscape of partners that we have, Eventful, Eventbrite, Google, Facebook, others, and estimate that they saved over 200 man hours.
Oh, wow.
Because again, when you think about this, if you're trying to do it from a traditional optimization standpoint, that's a lot of manual work.
Yeah, you better believe it.
But all you're doing is you're taking the exact same core piece of information and just trying to replicate it everywhere.
Yep.
And so we really strive for, again, a model in where you can update once and publish everywhere. And also that you are now thinking about your digital knowledge in a much more vibrant way, and thinking about, well, the menu changed. I got to update that. Or the store hours are going to change because of the holidays. I need to update that. My location moved. You have to think about this in a much more active mindset than perhaps you would when it was all manual. So you got the brand control, you got the local discovery, you've got customer experience, you've got the organizational efficiency, and then the last piece of the value proposition is really future-proofing your business. Because now, once I've built the database of all these objective facts, all the digital knowledge about my business, it doesn't matter what UIs and AIs change because I am publishing it out. Yext is working behind the scenes to build out our knowledge network, add new players, and those intelligent services themselves are adding new things all the time. So for instance, Google Lens comes along. I can now hold up my smartphone and I can look at the world around me and it's showing me information right on screen.
Right.
Yelp has a similar feature. Well, that didn't require any of our customers to do a thing to be in there because we're already integrated with those ecosystems and they're just drawing from that information. So I'm excited because I think those values are ones that no matter where you are in the marketing department, they deliver for you. They can save you time. And who doesn't want to save time and apply, the hours of our marketers to more strategic, more value-added types of activities? And if we can just strip this all down, put it in the hands of a digital knowledge manager, they can work with internal folks to manage it. That's a win-win.
Absolutely, and it does what Yext is doing is reflective of a lot of very mature tool sets now in the space. Any digital marketer, any manager of digital knowledge has to rely on the scalability tools as opposed to manually updating. It doesn't make any sense from just efficiency standpoint. Right. So you now see a not entirely new SaaS environment where not only are you managing your content, you're managing your social interactions, you're also managing your digital properties. So you need to have in your bandolier of tools from an internal marketing professional standpoint, or more importantly, digital agencies. You have to be able to deploy en masse, and that's the only way to be able to execute in this ever growing digital landscape, right?
Well, and that's why we have a pretty robust partner program. Really, there are a few different ways folks partner with us. So if you're on the intelligence service side, right, you can become a part of the knowledge network, and we never charge for the data of our customers. Meaning, we will output that to consumer services that are new and emerging because that is what we want to do. We want to ensure that our customers are in control everywhere. You then have our app directory partners. So folks like Salesforce, like HubSpot, like Zendesk. So they integrate with us. So for instance, on our reviews product, if you get a review that comes in, first party review or otherwise, that's less than 3 stars, you can set it up to trigger a Zendesk ticket so that your customer service reps are following up. Then you've got the actual referral and reseller partner pieces that we have. So on the SMB side of the market, really locations, usually, businesses with locations 25 and fewer, we have a robust network of resellers that we work with. Great digital agencies, great, consultancies, individual consultants, other folks who are reselling our product because those customers are better served by someone who's offering a full suite of digital services. They don't necessarily have all the point solutions that, say, mid-market and enterprise customers would have due to scale. And then the last one is we have a preferred partner program, which is, again, more of a referral model. And there we partner with those folks, deals done on our paper. But those partners will offer services around it, to create opportunities beyond just what we do. So it's a model that's tried and true. We had a very similar model at Exact Target, and ultimately it allows us to create an ecosystem that spreads the word. It proselytizes that, hey, this needs to be done. And I wouldn't be here if I didn't firmly believe that was a fundamental truth. I was motivated by, at Exact Target, we were all about subscribers rule. That the consumer owns the relationship. You should honor what they want. Do they want unsubscribe? Do they want to subscribe? What kind of personalization can you do? Those things. Here, it's about the business being in control to better serve that consumer on whatever device or service they're using.
Excellent. Well, we certainly implore our audience to go check out Yext, as well as digital marketing agencies, because what you may not know, they're changing so much that you got to give them an additional look. So with that, I want to pivot around and talk about some of the books that you've written in the space of time that we have. You recently, you wrote a book several years back, Audience Marketing in the Age of Subscribers, Fans, and Followers. Can you tell us a little bit about that book?
Sure. Fundamental proposition of that book is that proprietary audience development is now a core marketing responsibility, meaning marketers need to develop audiences that they alone can reach out to. It creates an accelerant. It allows to decrease dependency on paid media, or again, add fire on top of paid media. And the types of audiences you build that are proprietary would be through email subscribers, Facebook fans, Twitter followers, Instagram followers, what have you.
Right.
And what's interesting is, I was reflecting on this in another interview recently, that if I were to write the sequel right now, it would have a big old chapter about our current president. Because if you think about what he has done with Twitter, love him or hate him,
sure,
he built a proprietary audience that allows him to circumnavigate traditional media in order to go straight to the people.
That's right.
And control the narrative. That is proprietary audience development. That helped fuel his rise to the White House. It also is fueling much of his ability to control the public narrative right now. And that's what's creating cognitive dissonance for traditional media on how they handle this and how they process it. And everything will kind of work out in the wash over time. But that is a prime example of what proprietary audience development is, except instead of a brand, it's an individual.
Absolutely. So and you beat me to the punch here, is that, over the years, audience development has truly changed, and you've got this commitment to tribal development, and you have such brands and individuals have such an opportunity to be able to engage and have authenticity as the hood ornament of everything that they do. Are there new areas of business new areas that businesses should actually try building an audience in?
Well, I think the days of chasing the latest social media fad are kind of over.
Yeah.
And I think you're actually seeing, I saw a couple businesses announce that they're no longer going to advertise on Facebook. Many businesses moving off of social media because of the rise of trolls and other things. So I think part of your brand is to decide how you want to engage with your customers. And ultimately, I think you look to where your customers are to make those decisions. You want to be speaking to them where they are comfortable. And if you're trying to grow a market, then certainly you can look at perhaps some channels that you haven't tried to use before. But I'd say you need to build it around where your customers are.
Right.
And also have an understanding of what your capacity to feed that audience machine is, because there is nothing that is a build it and they will come. You can't launch an app and expect a million people to download it. You have to market your marketing, as Jay Barrell said. So I think where it's netted out is we now have maturity around more of these channels. And therefore the pressure maybe is a little bit off businesses to feel like they have to be everywhere.
Yeah.
And instead pick the places that they can speak and they can do things right. And ultimately audience building is about, as you mentioned, authenticity, but also creating a communication channel, which means it has to be two-way and it has to be human.
That's we harken back to a couple shows back where Quora, advertising in Quora, is a much more narrow delivery, but it's a loyal audience, and so instead of the broad media canvassing, businesses are certainly getting narrow and much more aligned with their personalities, their voice, and finding those delivery platforms that you don't have to go broad. You just provide quality content in those spaces. What about the role of podcasts and video over the last few years? Has that played into audience building?
Oh, absolutely. A podcast is definitely one place you can build an audience. Um, I think it depends on goals of your business. Are your consumers consuming and using podcasts? Or are they consuming and using on-demand video?
Mm-hmm.
And I think those are ripe for continued development by companies, including Yext.
Absolutely.
We are continuing to look at that and think about, where do we want to play? We don't want to just create something though to create it. It's not enough to just do the thing. You do a podcast or something else because you want to build an audience that creates downstream benefit for you, creates business opportunity, and that always has to be the gauge. So we have a site, geomarketing.com, wholly owned, journalistic site covering kind of the world of marketing with a bend towards location. That has been running for 3 years. We've built a really nice audience there, and our team has done a great job with that. But you constantly have to be evaluating, where do you need to go. Yext is not the same company that we were when I joined, and like most fast-growing startups, it's not the same company every 6 months, and so it is a constant evaluation of where you should be. And like the best digital marketing, it's a matter of testing what works. And I am a beneficiary today of your audience, right? One of the reasons why I avail myself to these kind of conversations is I am benefiting from your audience. That's part of the kind of the value exchange.
Right.
So it's not always that you have to create your own. You can make yourself available to have conversations. And if you're a CEO and you're pretty camera ready and you're pretty conversational, that's one of the ways you can dip your toe into the water, is to make yourself available as a guest on shows, because I suspect you would love to talk to CEOs. You would love to talk to folks and dig in and understand business from different angles.
Absolutely.
And that's another way you can do it that is more of an earned opportunity than a paid or an owned opportunity.
And that actually opens up a key concept, that the brand edifices are no longer that. The C-levels have to own the space in which they are now, and they see the obligations of communicating to audiences. It's no longer this one-to-many concept. I mean, the voice of brands have to get into these channels and be able to represent the brand, the brand's vision, their culture, and who best to actually describe that than C-level individuals of these organizations. So you're going to see more and more of individuals taking a stab at different podcasts, different direct channels, as opposed to the mass channels of yesteryear, right?
Well, I think you certainly will strike that balance. I mean, our Amazon announcement, still proves the value of traditional media.
Sure.
To see our CEO Howard Lerman on Squawk on the Streets, or Richard, Quest for Business, that still has that kind of validation of traditional media. But there are so many other outlets now, and I think businesses need to look at who are, if your CEO is not an outward CEO,
right?
Who are the other bench players you have that you can develop into kind of your public facing engagement?
The evangelists.
Your evangelists,
right.
Yeah. Even if you don't have a formal program in that regard.
Right.
And one of the things we tried to do at Exact Target, and I think we succeeded, one of the things we're trying to do at Yext, is develop that bench talent. With our launch announcement of our summer release, if you watch that video, you will see the product, the EVP of product. You will see the product managers, the product marketing managers actually in the video, because we want to elevate that talent. They're closest to the product.
Yep.
And who better to speak to it in an announcement like that? It shouldn't always be the C-level folks speaking. You have an opportunity to create career path and career opportunities for those folks. So it's a fun time, both because audiences are in a lot of places, you have ability to develop them yourselves, but also as a brand, you can let more of your culture and your people speak for you.
Excellent, and that really should be taken to the bank by any corporations that are listening or watching the show, is that they have to embrace and understand, that different companies have different ethos or different goals to achieve in that communication, but you got to go deep into your own organization. That's where the star power is, and that's where you get evangelists and advocacy that can go far beyond what any outside influencer can even bring to the equation. I want to come back around to one final point in our discussion, Jeff. And it's been such a pleasure talking to you and kind of exploring what Yext is doing. But I want to get back to voice search just briefly. We talked about a number of things: personal assistants, kind of the 4 players inside of voice. How should brands prepare for voice first world that they're going to be entering in, or they're already in, they just don't know it?
Sure. Well, I'm going to sound a bit like a broken record, but the first place it should start are with your actively managing the fundamental facts, the digital knowledge about your business.
Yep.
And ensure that you've got that in a digital knowledge management platform. You are publishing that out at scale and managing it on a regular basis. The reason being is that voice assistants, not only are the searches more sophisticated, the output is usually a single result. And you can't control what that result is. Yep. And if you apply an SEO mentality of like, oh, we're going to rank number 1, I think you're going to fail. Instead, you need to flip the paradigm. Think about, well, wait a second, I want to be the source of authority on anything asked about my business, these objective facts. And digital knowledge management gets you to that point with direct integration. And it's our bread and butter and what we believe is the foundational layer of great voice search. Beyond that, I think we're still very much in an environment where it is evolving. And so if anybody is kind of giving you, you must do this and it will result in this kind of advice, be skeptical. At the end of the day, it's still about great content. And in the voice assistant world, right, I can be doing things like skills. I can be doing, the little briefing things like on Amazon Alexa. So there are different ways to create content that is not necessarily in search, but you can engage with through that voice assistant and make your brand more prevalent. I have any number of friends who will play, Jeopardy daily on their Amazon Alexa because they're just say, Alexa, play Jeopardy. And much like the smartphone, there are only going to be so many skills that people are going to install, so many things they're going to engage with. And so I think then you have to flip it and look at, what does voice do to my business itself? We ourselves at Yext are looking at it in a kind of a precursory step, and that is with chat. So we have a knowledge assistant that allows our customers to text in and engage with our Yext knowledge assistant to make updates to their information via text. Because we looked at it and said, you know what, it's not an app that people are going to use. Text is where this is going to be. And so let's update that. And it's not far afield to begin to think about voice and other things. So your business needs to be thinking about those applications, because it's not that 100% of search is going to move over here to voice. It's that it's going to take certain types of activities. Meanwhile, search and discovery is going to continue on its merry way, splintering across apps and maps and directories and assistants and AI interfaces and in your car and outside your car and on that speaker and over here. And so I look at it from a standpoint that the best strategy for voice is get fundamental facts about your business right, managed actively and published. Then take a look at, how does voice work for my customers? Are there ways that I can create efficiencies or customer service, great customer experience for them? And as you explore that, it then will direct your priorities. Don't let anyone else set those priorities, because even for different competitors, it could be very different. what that stack ranking might be and how voice ultimately translates for your brand.
Thank you very much for that insight. I mean, that's especially the single source of information. There's no way that optimization is really going to take hold to be able to get that one placement. You've got to own the useful information of your brand and standardize it and clean it up across all the different spaces.
Well, you and I know that the only way that that's going to happen is if there's paid advertising.
Yeah.
And right now, across the voice assistants, as far as I know, they're not selling that spot.
Yeah,
right?
not yet. Yeah.
And even if they do sell that spot, you're still going to want all the information right. So again, this goes back to my future-proofing point is, this is the time now to get your house in order around all the facts, the granular information consumers want to know about you. Because AI services, voice, all of this stuff just has a hunger for that information. And if and when they charge for it, that's advertising. That's a whole different creature and a different set of assessments you're going to have to make as to whether you want to be there. And I'll tell you what, those services are going to have to decide if that makes sense, because I think there are some concerns about the exclusivity, the trustworthiness.
Yeah.
Like, there definitely is going to be a human element to this about what your comfort level is to have something that you're used to answering a question give you a sponsored answer.
Yeah, exactly. And that right there, they have to tread very lightly, because that could be a wholesale rejection of the entire industry if monetization comes through and suffers the content and the interaction that the consumers are looking for. That's the big factor right there. And they're trying to figure out how to get there, but it's a very delicate space. Jeff, we appreciate so much your insights today, and I gotta say I appreciate there are 3 phrases that have never appeared in our podcast, and I'm wondering if it even has appeared on podcasts before. Fashion catwalks in Singapore. I have no idea if that's ever come across on a podcast, but I love the fact that it's here. On top of Lamb Burger, as well as Rise of the Trolls. It's a cornucopia of uniqueness that we've come across today, and we really appreciate it, man.
I'm glad I could deliver.
Hey, lastly, we ask this of all of our guests. What bugs you in the industry that you're in right now?
I see a lot of retreaded talk tracks at marketing conferences. That things that I and others of my generation speaking 5-10 years ago were kind of saying and doing.
Yeah.
And I think I've tried to assess, is it just part of the aging process that you just you get old and you want people off your lawn and you're like, oh, I said that before. But I would also say that I do have concerns about the all-encompassing nature of social media in certain folks' lives and how it's being driven by certain thought leaders or others in the industry.
Amen to that.
There are certain just lifestyles that aren't attainable, and the rise of reality media and reality shows was really interesting, because I came of age during arguably the first reality TV show, Real World. And I remember us watching that as a generation and thinking, oh, this is so informative, and this is so interesting because, people are getting real and we're going to learn from each other. And what we've realized is that the reality show is a fabrication. It is in and of itself kind of a different just type of narrative structure that is scripted. But now that it's transcended, and now the reality show is around social media stars or others, and they're crafting this world around them about how they live and the economics of that, of wealth and conspicuous consumption. That remains a concern, especially as a parent of teenagers.
There you go.
And trying to make sure that they understand that their self-worth should not be caught up in what they have, but rather who they are and how they act and how they treat others. And that's something that we, especially as digital marketers who have to be on the bleeding edge of this stuff, also have to fight our own behaviors that are caused by being early adopters. I constantly have to fight the urge to check the phone at the table and all that kind of stuff, and I don't always succeed. But that, I think, is probably the thing that still bugs me, and I still haven't totally found the solution in my own life, and will always strive to. But kids are smart, and they're evolving with it as well. And I think my kids have pleasantly surprised me about how they're able to balance it and put it into context, probably even better than we do.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. We're starting to see a pendulum swing back to reality that kids can sniff out BS in the social space, and it is concerning with a bunch of people that don't have that self-awareness, or that awareness that it is predominantly fictionalized. And I think we came across an article, hey, Tom, a while back, several days back, where almost so many celebrities' Instagram were actually populated with Fiverr or what was it? Was it Pinterest or Instagram? I can't remember which, but doesn't matter. Anyway, there's so much that if you pierce the bubble, it's easy to pierce the bubble. Those levels of engagement aren't there. And I mean, kids and young adults and millennials need to have that, and then be armed with that level of filtering, because you can be led astray. That's for darn sure. And wanting a space that doesn't really exist.
Well, I'm taking the family tonight to see the movie 8th Grade by Bo Burnham, and I'm going to be very intrigued to see how it represents that, because I've heard some great reviews of the movie, and that it just really portrays that period of life accurately. And again, as the parent of an 8th grade daughter, it's very resonant. So it's up to us as parents to try and guide them. But again, you're giving them roots and wings, so you can't just lord over them.
Yeah. Okay. So we can really actually commiserate off air. Hey, thanks so much, Jeff, for all your time today, and we truly appreciate your insights. Any final thoughts for our digital marketing audience of Edge of the Web that you could possibly impart?
Network locally, join local digital marketing groups, get to know the people around you. I think some of the best learning you can do is probably in your own backyard. And talking with others who are doing what you're doing outside of your company. That kind of peer-to-peer thought leadership sharing has always been what I've supported, and why I've so enjoyed speaking around the country and around the globe, is to be a catalyst for those conversations. So it's wonderful to tune into podcasts such as this that keep you informed, but get out of the office, get out of the house, meet those people in your community that are doing it. And I think you'll see your opportunities professionally and personally grow.
Absolutely. Well said, sir. Thanks so much again. For our audience, you want to track down Jeff on Twitter, JK Rohrs, ROHRS, and also jump in and check out Facebook at the Yext Corporation, Yext Inc. on Facebook, LinkedIn. For all of us here at Edge, we really appreciate your time today, digging into what the digital knowledge management realm is and how Yext can be a part of it. Thanks so much for your time today, and thanks to everybody who's listening to Edge of the Web. We certainly appreciate your continued support and your ratings and reviews, because without that, we won't get this information out to that next level of audience in the digital marketing space. So thanks to our colleagues over here at Edge, our Site Strategics, as well as certainly our guest, Jeff Rohrs. So make sure you can see all the videos and much more over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's edgeofthewebradio.com. And we'll see you next week. Tom, who are we going to be talking to?
Joe Lazowskis. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. We're going back to New York City.
Oh, cool.
He wrote the Storytelling Edge with Shane Snow. We had Shane Snow on a while back. So.
All right. So from all of us over here at Edge of the Web, thanks so much for listening, and do not be a piece of cyber driftwood. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.